One of the teams I've been the most excited to make a video about this offseason is the Baltimore Ravens. For good reason. They have the most electrifying player in the NFL playing quarterback. They have the most dominant player in the NFL playing running back. And they have a defense that looks like they are ready to repeat their success that they had last year. There's not a single statistic that you can find about the Baltimore Ravens from last year that you can say they did poorly last year. And if you want to point to their total passing yards being 21st in the league, you also have to point out the fact that they were 5th in the league in terms of their net yards per pass attempt last year. When they had to throw the ball, they could do it really efficiently, and they ran the ball really efficiently even when they didn't have to. So, yes, the pure volume for the passing game isn't there, but when they need it, the Baltimore Ravens can throw the ball very well. In a division where the Baltimore Ravens are going to be facing Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Cincinnati 6 times this upcoming season, they're going to not only need Lamar Jackson to be that throwing threat that he has proved that he can be efficient at being, but they're going to need his legs, they're going to need Derrick Henry's legs, and they're going to need this offensive line who is going to be featuring some new faces in the middle and a new face at right tackle to be able to not only replace what was there last year, but be even better than they were last year. And those are some tough shoes to fill because it's hard to be a 13-4 team where you were 4th in total points scored and you were 1st in total points scored against and say that you need to play better. But that's just what you have to do in today's NFL. You cannot just rely on being a 13-win team every year because nobody is a 13-win team every year. And I would say it's going to be hard for this defense to repeat the success that they had last year, solely off the fact that they are replacing their defensive coordinator, Mike Macdonald, who went to Seattle to become their head coach, with Zach Orr. Zach Orr, who has a few years of coaching experience with the Baltimore Ravens, as well as another year with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who also played 3 years for the Baltimore Ravens. You know, he could do it. He's coached these inside linebackers the last 2 years, 2 inside linebackers between Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith, who were Pro Bowl caliber players last year, and probably, outside of Levante David, probably the 2 best inside linebackers in the NFL last year. But defensively, with the losses of Patrick Queen, Jadeveon Clowney, Geno Stone, I think it's going to be a bit difficult to replace those players, not only with statistical replacements, but with replacements in terms of, Patrick Queen was a very valued player for this defense, both for his leadership, for his ability to be there every single day for Baltimore. It's going to be missed for the Baltimore Ravens. Also because they didn't really replace him. The best thing that Baltimore did in the offseason was they drafted Nate Wiggins and they signed Derrick Henry. Those are really the only 2 things that they did. And while those are 2 really good things, they didn't replace much that they lost last year. I already mentioned that they lost Patrick Queen, who they didn't really replace. They did somewhat replace Geno Stone with Eddie Jackson, who I think could be a very good player if you put him next to Kyle Hamilton in the back end of the defense. But they don't have much of a replacement for Jadeveon Clowney. And while, yes, Jadeveon Clowney isn't the best defensive end in the NFL, you don't just get 9.5 sacks right off the street. You don't get that. So, and you didn't replace it very well, in my opinion. They draft defensive end Adisa Isaac from Penn State. I don't know if they think he is someone to play right away. I don't know if they're going to rely on guys like Justin Madubuike and Adolphe Awe. I don't know what their plan is really up front. They've always been a team that up front defensively has been a complete team effort, and that's something that either way they're going to be very good at because of their characteristics of how they play defensively and how they go all out on every snap up front. So I don't think they're going to be a step down from where they were last year. I just think they're not going to be this dominant force that last year was the number one scoring defense. They caused the most turnovers. You couldn't really throw the ball on them very well. You could run on them a little bit, but that's the only thing you could do. Um, they didn't let up points to anybody. I mean, you have games where you held playoff teams like the Texans to 9 points, like the Browns to 3, like the Lions to 6, like the Jaguars, who weren't a playoff team but they were close, to 7, the Niners to 19, the Dolphins to 19. Like defensively, this team was insanely good. And someone who I've already mentioned, who is going to be the new face of this team along with Justin Madubuike, is going to be Kyle Hamilton. And I think we see Kyle Hamilton take a step from being an all-pro caliber player to being a defensive player of the year candidate this year. But it's not just Kyle Hamilton or Justin Madubuike that I'm excited for because of the defense. I'm excited for Lamar Jackson. I'm excited for Derrick Henry because neither of those guys have had anyone play with them that is anywhere close to each other's talent level. Now, I think statistically we could see some sort of record-breaking year. I don't know if there's ever been a rookie, if there's ever been a quarterback, running back duo to each have over 1,000 yards and 10. I don't know what that record book looks like, but if there's some sort of record to be broken between a quarterback running back duo for yards, for touchdowns, whatever it is, I would not be surprised to see this duo break it. And they're going to have a lot of games where they're going to be winning because, again, like I said, this defense is still going to be very, very good. This defense is still going to have them in games where they don't need to score 30-plus points to win each game. That's not how they're built. They're built on their defense, and they're built on Lamar Jackson being the most athletic player in the NFL and being the most energizing player in the NFL. And I think with somebody like Derrick Henry in the backfield now, it's going to add a level to this offense that hasn't been there yet. The real threat to just pound the rock every single down if they wanted to. And, I'm not going to say that Derrick Henry is like a Christian McCaffrey or a Rashad White or any of those kinds of running backs that are in the passing game elite. But, man, I think there were some times in Tennessee where they were just happy with taking Derrick Henry off the field. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to take the best player on your team off the field when you have to throw the ball. Again, I'm not saying that he's an elite receiving threat. I just feel like, what's almost as good as having Derrick Henry run downhill with the ball in his hands? I would think Derrick Henry with a lot of open grass in front of him is pretty good too. So I really hope that they try to incorporate Derrick Henry in the passing game as well there in Baltimore. I already did mention the offensive line. Now, there's going to be a lot of changes up front. You're replacing basically both of your guards. You're replacing a tackle, and you're replacing a majority of your snaps. Both of your guards between Kevin Zeitler and John Simpson played more snaps than anybody on the offense last year, except for Lamar Jackson. You're replacing that with Andrew Voorhees, who was highly touted coming out of college, but tore his ACL and missed his entire rookie year. You're replacing your right tackle with rookie Roger Rosengarten from Washington, who was your second-round pick. And you're hoping that Lamar has time to throw the ball because he really only needs a little bit to make a decision. But you just hope that this isn't the problem that plagues Baltimore, because an offensive line problem can plague your entire team a lot worse than having subpar wide receivers or not a great tight end or not the best secondary in the NFL. When your worst problem is that your offensive line cannot protect and cannot open holes in the running game, you're in for a very long season. let's get to the schedule. So it's pretty tough, I would say, at least. Almost every single one of the road games this year for Baltimore is against teams that were in the playoffs last year. And against the Chargers and against the Giants are two teams who are looking to improve a lot upon where they were last year. Even their home games aren't just walks in the park either. You obviously have the games against the Steelers, Browns, and Bengals. You also have Philadelphia, and you have Buffalo at home. And you open the year going to Kansas City on a Thursday night, which I feel like is always weird, on their banner hanging game. And it's a rematch of the AFC Championship. There's probably going to be some sort of tension in that game. And I think that's going to be the game to set the tone for the rest of the year for Baltimore. Like I said, I'm pretty excited about Baltimore's chances this year. I would say they're in the top 3 or 4 in terms of teams that have a chance to win the Super Bowl. And I would also say that they're going to have a team that features the 2 most unstoppable players in the NFL that aren't receivers. And even among receivers, I would think Lamar Jackson in open space is unstoppable just as much as Justin Jefferson is at getting open, or Jamar Chase is at getting open, or any receiver or tight end you want to bring up. I think Lamar Jackson is probably as unstoppable, if not more unstoppable, than any of those guys. Now you give him Derrick Henry, who is unstoppable in the sense that you can't stop him from running straight through you. This is like Marshawn Lynch on steroids. This is like one of the best running backs in NFL history and one of the strongest dudes in the NFL. And you pair that together, you're going to have teams wanting to quit by the end of the game in some of these matchups. And you're going to have teams scared to play this offense if everything goes right. I would really think that the ceiling for this team is the Super Bowl. Forget wins and losses, forget the record. The ceiling for this team is the Super Bowl. There's not any other way to put it. The floor for this team should, no matter what, be the divisional round, be at least 10 or 11 wins. I could definitely see, like I already mentioned, the offensive line being an issue for this team. And if it is, then they're not going to win the Super Bowl. They're not. If they can't figure it out up front, then they're going to be kind of screwed because, like I said, they're featuring 2 guys who have never played a snap in the NFL. I don't know how much you love that if you're the Baltimore Ravens. Either way, this is a playoff team. This is the team from the AFC North. This is going to be one of the teams in the AFC and in the NFL in general. We saw them the whole year last year. Outside of the Pittsburgh Steelers, they lost 1 game last year. I don't see a reason why they don't repeat their success. I don't see a reason why they don't improve upon their success. And I don't see a reason why they don't win the Super Bowl if everything goes right for this team.